I'm Estelle Bingham, and this is the Love Purpose Connection podcast. Here on Love Purpose Connection, I want to explore how to discover and really develop the secrets of a good life. I'm a holistic therapist and healer, and so over this series, I'll be sharing frank, inspiring, sometimes raw, often joyful conversations with a different guest each time, exploring just what those three words really mean, and also, crucially, how you can discover and develop them in your own life. Today I'm talking to award-winning hair artist and stylist Charlotte Mensah. From her salon in the heart of London's Portobello Road, Charlotte styles and nurtures the hair of everyone, from best-selling author Zadie Smith, film star Jada Pinkett Smith, and those who just walk into her salon and fall in love with it. When I first met her, as you'll hear in our conversation, self-care was on my mind. And what I love about Charlotte is her profoundly spiritual relationship with her role as guardian of the crown and her commitment to community and ultimately to love. I just want to welcome you to the Love Purpose Connection podcast, Charlotte. And when I first met you, I came to your salon. I was like, okay, I'm going. I'm going to take my cars and I'm going to take them into this salon and I'm going to have Charlotte. And I was like, they were like, who do you want to see? I was like, I've got to see Charlotte. I've got to see the Queen of the Curl.
Oh.
And then I came into the salon and I was really struck by the energy of this space. It was just, the minute you step in, there was something else happening. It felt really healing. And then I bought your book, Good Hair. And then I read your story and I was like, okay, now it makes sense. It makes sense why there are pictures of the ancestors on the walls, why you get a slice of like cake, you get the kind of family cake, family recipe. And also what kind of happens when someone's in your chair.
I know, that space is just incredible because I remember I was very, very close to this friend of mine who's a pastor. And he lived in Ghana and he told me, you're going to have a shop in a very strategic corner and it's just going to blow up. And I was like, what? How does he know? Because the shop is on the corner and it is a very strategic corner because it's kind of off the main road of Ladbroke Grove and right on the corner of the North Kensington part of Portobello Road. It was already manifested that I was going to be in this shop. And then I remember years later having a conversation with my landlord. And I said, you know what? Everybody loves this space. And he said, Charlotte, 100 years ago, it used to be a chapel.
Wow.
A chapel. So the kind of feeling of belonging, of, people coming into the salon and they just feel like, oh my God, this is what I need. This is the space that I've been longing for. It's not just a hair salon, it's something really spiritual. And I think because, I left Ghana when I was 11 years old and I always wanted to go back because I missed that community aspect because my grandmother, lived in a compound house, had lots of children, but she was just able to look after so many of us without any she didn't look stressed, she didn't look, she just did it. So I think that community thing has always been in my head. And that salon, Hair Lounge is like that community. It's that sharing, it's that respecting, it's the honouring, and it's that inspiring because there's so many types of people that come into that space. We've had people cry, it's deep. Even in Good Hair, like Zadie Smith, she really, really sums it all up really well. And she's like, Charlotte, I don't know how you do it because you're this one person and you can talk to 13 people at once, but you never make anyone feel like they're less. Like everyone's important to you, everyone's special. And I said, yeah, everyone is because everyone we meet in life, we're supposed to meet them.
Charlotte, you're so warm, aren't you? You're just exuding and it just kind of
comes glowing.
It comes out of the pores. And I know you are hairdresser, hairstylist to the famous, I think you mentioned Zadie Smith, but there are lots of other people that you've worked with, right? Like Erykah Badu.
Loads. I've worked with Chimamanda Ngozi. I've worked with Janelle Monáe. I've worked with Jada Pinkett. I've worked with lots of first ladies, like a lot of these president's wife from Africa would fly in, you know, and Madonna's kids. Like, there's people that I wouldn't even talk about. Like, they'll come to the salon, nobody knows who they are, but I know who they are. And I just want them to have their time. And for me, it's about people.
It's amazing. And I actually just want to talk about your story, because I feel like your story has really contributed to who you are and how this real heart work that you're doing, you know, under the guise of of basically saving everyone's curls and their hair and just making it work, and really being such a champion of black hair and curls. That is a part of your destiny, right? But also this heart energy, other story, other part of you. And what I loved in the book was actually when you speak about the Mende tribe. And you talk about who are an African tribe, and how they believed that the success of a hairstyle, and I'm reading it from your book, had as much to do with the energy of a space which needed to be cleared of animosities and be full of goodwill and harmony. And trust, love and companionship were exchanged in the doing of hair, which required long hours and practice. And so I really read this and I was like, this feels really shamanic. And we think about all of the really ancient wisdom and traditions, you know, and African wisdom. And we look at all the indigenous wisdoms, which are so connected to the heart and to truth and to creation. The person who comes to work with your hair and love your hair and create something beautiful out of your hair, there is an energy there.
Definitely, because it's such a spiritual thing when you're doing someone's hair, because you meet someone and for the first 15 seconds, you're touching them, you're in their space. And I think that's the only job. I mean, okay, beauty, I guess makeup, but hair, it's like you're reaching someone's crown. And if you look at all the religions and all the faiths, you know, any time it came to praying for someone, it's always about laying the hands on the crown. You know, like it's like people putting so much trust in you. They believe in you. They believe that they're honouring what you're doing, because people really allow you in that space and they trust you. And I remember when I was growing up, and my grandmother would say things like, "Be careful who you allow in your hair. Like, be careful, because certain people, their energy's bad and like your hair just breaks, it doesn't grow, you lose hair." And I used to think, what's she on about? But it made sense, because I knew that there's certain people that I wouldn't even allow them near me, because I know that when they're around me, I don't feel myself. You could see so much on a person when they're going through stuff. Like with clients of mine, you could see when they're really, really stressed out, the hair's breaking, it's not nourished, like whatever you do just doesn't look its best. And they just look down, their spirit's down. You feel it, you could feel those energies. It's like it's all in the hair. My whole approach to hairdressing has always been a more of a holistic approach. And it's not just about the grooming and the dressing of the hair, but really getting to know that person. Because also once I know who I'm dealing with, it's easier to perform whatever treatments they want. And I think that's the most special part of the job, because that human connection it's just incredible. And I think, especially during now with all of this virus and the lockdowns, it's like some of the emails I get from clients, I'm almost in tears. I'm like, oh my God, they just really, really miss having a chat.
But I really want to talk about that, because your story, which is in your book, Good Hair, which I have to say, you know, I started reading that and it's just like I'm sitting with you having a chat. It's such a great book. It's so interesting because it's got all of the history of black hair in there. So it's a really, really positive book. In terms of black beauty and the history of black hair. But also just in terms of a story, a human story, and that humanity. And you talk about how you were in Ghana. Mum and Dad came over, and basically they'd come over before you and left you with Granny, which of course you loved. You were in the compound of love, right? And that was like amazing.
So they came over in 1968. You know, it was really tough. They managed to find one room. They were living in their room. They both got a job. And then my mum fell pregnant, and it was me that they felt. So then, you know, she has this baby. The baby's 3 months old, constantly crying. You know, my mum said,
you now.
yeah, me. She said I was such a loud baby. Like the whole world would be like, what's wrong with this baby? Is she okay? So everybody advised her, like the community, the Ghanaians that were around would say, look, the best thing to do is send her back to grandma. You'll have more time. You can't afford nanny. You guys can just about, afford this one room, and you could work more and you should have a better life because, grandma has time and there's aunties, there's cousins. You should have so much help. So 3 months old, put me on the plane with aunties in a Moses basket. I turn up in Ghana and I was like the novelty of the town because 1970, a child turns up in a Moses basket. It's like, what is going on? Wow. It's like a big deal,
I'm sure it is. It'd be a big deal now.
Exactly. And I think everybody would be like, where's that baby that came in a basket from London? It was like the joke of the town. And luckily, my grandfather had just become a director of a brewery. And my grandmother was, this amazing woman. She had all of her kids, which were 8 of them. So my mum was abroad, so she was living with 7 of her kids. And they all had kids, plus cousins. There was always a lot of us in the house. Bath time was a long queue of buckets.
Right.
It was a lot of people. But this woman was so amazing how she was just able to look after everyone. She baked all the bread, cooked all the food. She had a massive garden where she grew like spinach, like plantain. We had massive mango tree. She would have sewing machine, buy fabrics, cut them all up and make our clothes. She was incredible. She was actually a Wonder Woman if I come to think of it. But what was so special about grandma was her love for God. She loved praying. My grandma would wake up like 3 a.m. and she would be praying. As you woke up, you would hear her praying. And it was incredible. When I say incredible, the day my grandmother died, the rain that came down, we couldn't believe it. And the people, oh my goodness, that's what all of us, we have that instilled in us. We all have this amazing kind of belief and unwavering faith. She always used to say to us, if you can help someone, help them. Do it from your heart. Don't do it half-heartedly or you're expecting something back. The foundations of me is definitely from that. Even in the salon, like you'd have all sorts of people from Portobello Road that are just, you call them down and outs, but to me, they're human and they're still somebody. And they'll come by and they'll come in the salon and people will be like, God, you talk to everyone. I'm like, yeah, but they're part of the community. They also need that love. They also need someone to say hello to them and to welcome them and to make them feel good. And I think that's definitely from grandma because she was like that. Everybody was important. Everyone mattered.
When I hear you talking about it, I just, really feel the strength of it and what she instilled in you.
Yeah.
And of course, when you got to England, grey England, in when you were 11 years old, you really needed to draw on some of that wisdom and that to really get you through.
I did.
Because in the book, we then hear about how you're at school, you're bullied.
Coming from Ghana, I obviously knew that there was other nationalities and races, but I think being 11 years old, you're a minor, you don't really think that deep. You're just a child. And for me, growing up in Ghana, it was just about a person. It was never a black and white thing. So coming to the UK really made me feel like, oh my God, what, am I an alien? Because, the moment you walk into the classroom, kids were just laughing. I didn't want to even speak because I knew that if I spoke, I'll be like the butt of the class. That everyone would be like, oh my God, here she goes. And then they would be laughing. So I was always very quiet, literally hung around by myself. And then the worst thing was when my mum decided that threading is a really good technique. Like it's a really good technique for growing hair. It's a form of braiding. So she started threading my hair. Oh my goodness. That day I walked into the classroom. I was actually lifted by 4 boys who tried to hang me on the ceiling because my hair was like hoops.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, it's like a hook. We're going to hang you like a chandelier.
Wow.
Yeah.
So actually terrifying.
Terrifying. And I was so upset. I used to cry so much. And I think the worst thing as well, around that time, there was a lot of shows on about Tarzan. So Tarzan and Jane, and that didn't really help because that was all like, all the Africans there walking around barefoot, no clothes on. So everyone, when they said you're from Africa, they just assume that you came from this jungle. You've never worn a pair of shoes before.
So this was also you were getting bullied from other black children.
A lot. I was
Which must
so
have been
shocked.
really confusing.
It was really confusing because, like I said, growing up in Ghana, I just thought of a person. I never ever knew that there was a difference between a Ghanaian and a West Indian. I just thought they're all black people. But I think the worst thing that happened was at the age of 13, just before my 13th birthday, when my mum passed away. And then that was like such a, the most devastating thing that could have happened, you know. And it was so weird as well, because I remember, like, you know, my mum would do my hair and my sister's hair, and I automatically became like a mum. I just started doing my sister's hair. I'd read to her. I'll pick her up from nursery. And I think because I really loved fashion, I look at all of these magazines. There was magazines like Jet and Ebony. Like, if I had a little bit of money, pocket money, I'll buy a magazine. And then when I saw these black women, it just made me so happy, because I'd be like, oh, she looks nice. And then I'll sit my sister down and say, oh, let me try it on your hair. So that's how I got into hair. It was never like, oh, yes, I knew I was going to be a hairdresser. But I think for me, just being that nurturing and that motherly made me naturally warm to it.
Actually, you really met your grief by doing
the hair.
It was a way of you to. It was a way for you to just be with sort of your day-to-day sorrow and your day-to-day grief, and you kind of focused and a way to actually process.
Yeah, when I was doing the hair, it felt like Mum was around for some reason. It felt like her presence was there. And yeah, I just really enjoyed doing their hair, and that really helped with the grieving. But it still didn't take the pain away. And I think the worst bit as well is we had to all live with different family members. So that was hard because...
So you got separated?
Yeah, we got separated, and, you know, living with family members who really didn't care about you. Like, I remember being with one particular auntie, and basically the front room was my bedroom. So I had to wait for everybody to finish watching TV, whatever time that was. Then I'll get the little mattress, roll it out, and that would be on my own.
And how old were you?
14, 15. And
so were you quite lonely in those days?
Yeah, quite lonely.
What would you say to someone who has lost a parent? I mean, especially someone who, you know, people lose people young, but at any age.
At any age.
Yeah, there are sort of different ways to kind of be with your grief and your sadness and that loss.
For me, prayer is a very powerful thing for me. Like, all of my life, like even since my mum died, there's so many people I've lost. I lost my grandmother shortly after, my grandfather. I've lost cousins who I was really close to. My brother, even in the middle of writing a book, my brother passed away, who was so close to me. And for me, really reflecting, like I wake up really early. I spend a lot of time on my own, like especially I wake up at 5 a.m. and just spend like an hour just reflecting and kind of writing my thoughts down, praying. And I always get some sort of messages. So for me, that was the way of me coping. And I find that listening to like really gospel music as well is really uplifting my soul. And just for some reason, I don't feel sad anymore. I feel like all the happiness that we had together, all those memories would flood my mind. And then it didn't seem like they're gone. It seems like they're kind of like around me still. So I never feel like anyone's gone from me. I feel like they've become my angels, and they're always around me. They're always with me. I remember one of the awards that I received, and I swear to God, when I got on that stage, I felt like my grandmother, my mum, and my aunties, everyone that I've lost were just there smiling, saying, yes. I couldn't even explain it to anyone because they wouldn't understand what I meant.
Well, they might do.
I think some people think that you're a bit crazy.
This podcast are going to understand. They're going to get it completely.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you about this because, of course, in the African tradition as well, you know, the ancestors are very powerful. In our spiritual lives, this idea of people passing over and then coming back in to be around you. And I was actually going to ask you that question of, do you feel mum, and do you feel, because they're such strong characters.
Yeah, no, I do. She was an amazing woman. I mean, by the age of 42, she had 8 kids. She had a very short life, but a very powerful life, because I look at all my siblings and even what I have achieved. And I know that that's definitely my mum, because she had that strength and she was so driven and very determined. But it wasn't to be. But I definitely feel like even when I'm making decisions, my kind of zest for life and all of my energy, like sometimes I feel like I have the energy of like a 12-year-old, and it's from her. So I definitely feel like that they're so proud. I know they are so proud because I'm kind of like the first one in my family to really do something on this scale, like to even have that power and that kind of strength to even want to put my own name on my products, and all of it being self-funded, and things have happened for me without me having to really search and beg or push, or it's just naturally come my way. So I believe there's amazing thing to come and I don't need to force it.
So this idea of the family in the light, because it is an idea that your family in the light, they pass over, then they come back and they come in and they are your, they're like angelic energy around you.
Yes, yeah, definitely angels. Because a lot of people will read my book and they would say, how did you do it? You had so much against you. You're coming from Stonebridge. You lost your mum. I was a young mum. I had a son at 22. There was a lot. But if you have that unwavering, the faith of what I believe, and then you have the family that is so strong, the unit.
What would you say to people who don't have that initial grounding in the childhood?
There's always someone growing up that were really, really good to you. You need to surround yourself, because even now, like with me, I have certain people in my life that I would only allow in my circle because they really enrich me. They really challenge me. So I think it's about finding, like look at amongst your circles, your peoples, who's around you. Who can you say like, oh my God, this person, when we're together, I feel like, oh my God, I could do anything. I can climb and be on top of that tree. And I think it's about finding. So you have to keep searching.
You got to keep searching to find your tribe.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Find your hype person.
Yeah, find your hype person.
Exists. And also you can become your best hype person too.
100%. Like there's times where like, why do they say affirmations? What is affirmations? Affirmations is you believing, you standing and say, I can. Yes, I am. I am enough. You have to believe it.
So when you look in the mirror, who looks back at you, Charlotte?
Oh my God. So powerful, motivated, leader, wonder. Yeah, wonderful. Like I meet, even like just being in Ghana recently, and I meet all these women, and you look at the stories that they tell you and you're like, how did you even make it today? But it's the smiles, the way the soul, they're just so uplifted and so determined, and the resilience. That to me is so inspiring.
So when I say the words love, purpose, connection to you, Charlotte, what comes up for you?
So for me, love, that's actually my mom's name, right? So yeah. So love is just, to me, that thing that you show that person, that smile is love, that the time you have for someone, it's something within your spirit, isn't it? You just can't help it. If you have it, you have it. Not everyone has love though. Not everyone has love, because if you haven't been given love, how do you show love? I was given so much love. And I think, again, going back to my beliefs, the basis of my belief as a Christian is love. So love one another, wherever you can, show love. And purpose to me is so many things. Purpose to me is waking up and finding that zest in my stride to want to do things, finding that energy to do something amazing. I feel like every day is another chance to do something great. Yeah, at the moment, I'm really, really enjoying doing these workshops in Ghana with these young girls. And that to me is like a very purposeful thing to do at the moment. And
Connection.
Like, I feel like I really connected with you. Like, I met you in my salon. Even though there was so many people in the salon that day, there
were a lot of people
a
in
lot
there,
of people. It was
Charlotte.
very busy. There was just something about you that I really liked. And when you sort of said to me about your podcast, I was like, yes, I'll do that, because I felt like we were on the same wavelength and we kind of wanted the same things. So it made sense that I connected with you, yeah.
We love that connection thing, don't we?
100%.
We love that connection thing. Before I go, I do want to talk about your products because they're amazing. And I want to talk about Manquetta oil.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because Manquetta oil...
Actually, I brought you one.
Have you?
Yeah, I brought you the oil.
Amazing.
Yeah,
You've got me some oil. Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's Manquetta hair oil.
Yeah.
Which is an African hair oil.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's like magical, this hair oil.
It really is, because the oil, it's from the southern part of Africa. So it's existed for over 6,000 years. So initially, when I wanted to develop my own products, I knew a lot about shea butter because I grew up in Ghana. Grandmother used it for everything, for like our hair, for our skin. So I knew shea butter had so many benefits. And I love the fact that it had a high concentrate of vitamin E, which is really good for like nourishing and moisturizing. But by the time I got around to it, because again, I'm a so believer in this, doing everything yourself. So it took me 6 years to actually develop this range.
You did this all on your own?
All on my own, 6 years, you see. So that's my thing about patience as well. Like, there's a lot of people in a hurry and want things really quickly.
You have sort of revolutionised as a Black British, London, Ghana, hairdresser.
Yeah.
But also now you've got your own products.
Yeah.
You know, you've always you really champion bringing that love back to black hair, which is, you know, I remember growing up, we used to just have this, I think it was called African Pride, but it was basically Vaseline with some lumps of kind of weird herbs. Yeah, that you then put on your hair. It would either be white or it would be lumps of herbs and wouldn't quite go in, and then be a chunk. And it was just, it wasn't great.
But that's all we had.
But that was all that was happening. So I'm really happy, Charlotte, that you've
it was so needed.
But can anyone use this?
Anyone can use this.
Yeah, is it
universal?
Hair? Is it white hair? Is it
everyone?
Hair? Is it Asian hair?
Yeah, everyone can use it. It's universal.
Yeah.
There's Jewish women have bought it, Japanese women, Asian women, like everybody. You can use it so many different ways. I use it on my nails, on my elbows. Right now, with all of this washing hands, I've always got one in my bag, so it's like my go-to hand cream as well.
Yeah,
it's
amazing.
Yeah, it's so good.
So as we bring this podcast to an end, I just wanted to invite you to maybe share one of your prayers, because actually prayer is so powerful, setting that intention and just having and making that connection. And I just wanted to invite you to say a prayer at the end of this podcast. It doesn't matter what denomination you are, it doesn't matter like who you are, but we're just going to say a prayer for you because so many people have been going through such hard times and we know that, we feel that. So I'm going to leave it to you, and I know I've thrown you in at the deep end, Charlotte, but I'm like, bring it.
Oh my God. For me, my prayer is always the moment I open my eyes, it's like, God, I thank you. I thank you for waking me up. I mean, it's a privilege to be alive, you know? And for me to be able to get up today and I'm breathing, I thank you and I honor you and I worship you, and I believe great things will come. And I believe that God is my everything. And when I say everything, He's my everything. He's my friend, my husband, my everything. So I bring everything to Him. So pour out whatever's on your heart. You just say it. So for me, like I said, I wake up and I say, God, I just thank you. And that thanking, you know, it's such a big thing. Thank you is so abundant. Thank you for keeping my family well. Thank you for keeping everything around me safe. So for anyone out there, even just saying thank you in your prayer, just that 1-2 words, thank you, that's everything.
Amen, sister.
To
find out more about Charlotte, you can find her at Charlotte Mensah on Instagram. You can find me at Estelle.Bingham. And if you've enjoyed the show, do share it, rate it, and review it. This podcast is produced by Sarah Cudden with exec production from Kate Taylor. It's a Feast Collective production. Until the next one, wishing you all more love, purpose, and connection.